Pauline Taylor,
Yeah.
actress.
Yeah.
We have you in front of the camera.
Again, yeah.
When was the last time?
Can't remember. It's a long time ago, love. You know, I'd stopped working because, about when I was 60, because my second marriage was very, very happy. Well, you know that, Andrew. You saw us both together. And it suddenly occurred to me that we were both getting on a bit, and I didn't know how much time we'd got left together, and I wanted all of it. And in the end, although work had always been the most important thing to me, Stuart was much more so. That's why.
Polly, we've got some questions to go through that we've been asked to put to you. First of all, A Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
How did you get the part as the psychiatrist? Did you?
Well, I'm so dumb. My agent put me up for a reading, and I'm so dumb I thought it was another commercial. He was always sending me up for commercials. I was very glad of them, they say. Especially the repeat fees. And when they gave me a sheet of script, two pages I think it was, I thought, I don't know what this is, but it isn't a commercial. So
who's they, Polly?
Whoever was employing.
Right.
You know, the bosses, whoever it was.
Can you remember where it was?
No, I don't.
Was it an audition? Was it? Did you
sort
audition?
of, yeah. Well, more like a screen test, because you read in front of a screen. They, filmed you like now.
Right.
And afterwards, and I thought, this is, God knows what this is, but it isn't a commercial. And it's, it seems proper drama, and I hope I get it. And then the casting director said to me, Polly, that was fine. We can't tell you anything yet because Kubrick's out of the country. And I thought, I just stopped myself from saying, oh, and said, oh, yes, of course. I'm thinking, blimey, because I hadn't realised it was important until that point. And anyway, then I was told I got the part, and they sent me a script, and I had 2 lines. And there was a male psychiatrist and a female one. And the night before we were going to film it, I think film people are a bit dotty sometimes. They rang me and said, look, we're terribly sorry, Miss Taylor, but we decided to telescope the male and female psychiatrists into one person. I thought, oh, well, they've still got to pay me. They've signed a contract. I thought they were cutting me, you see. Yeah. And so he said, do you think you could possibly learn the male psychiatrist lines overnight? And, darling, I thought of all those years in Reb, where I've learned yonks and yonks of stuff. So I said, I think I could just about manage that. And when I went in, and we did the scene, and Kubrick sort of looked down at the floor for a bit, and then he looked at us. Very bright eyes that man had. He said, pretty dull scene. Well, I agreed with him. It was. So we spent a couple of days, really, Malcolm McDowell and myself, improvising a scene until we'd virtually written a scene. And that's the one we did. And as I was being paid by the day, I was jolly pleased. I thought, good, I can have some nice winter boots, which I need, which I did get.
What was it like working with Malcolm McDowell?
Well, I can't say I got to know him very well because there wasn't time to chat. And, what he was doing required such enormous concentration, and me too.
Did you have to do lots of takes during your scene?
Quite a few, I think. Yes, because he kept changing his mind about what he wanted, which is fair enough. He was the boss.
Have you got any particular stories about Kubrick?
Well, he was one of those people that when he came into the room, you knew he was there straight away. There was a tremendous sort of in the air, as some people do. Oh dear, I'm sure I could think of... Can't think of anything to tell you.
Did you know about the content of the rest of the movie?
No, I didn't. And when I read the book, which of course I hurried to do, I didn't understand it really. It took me ages to get the point of it.
And did you, was there a big premiere screening that you...
Yes, there was. And the guy was my agent at that time. He fainted with some of the violence and had to be carted out.
Oh, really?
And
do you remember where it was, the screening?
I think it was when they were doing things to Miriam Carlin.
Where it was, darling, the premiere.
No. Andrew, it's a long time
Was it
ago.
London? Was it London?
Oh, yes, it was London.
Yeah.
Oh, I can tell you one Kubrick story. Having seen that practically, been talking to some of the cast and found out everyone was showing their all. I was terribly embarrassed because I hadn't got much of a bosom, and I thought I'd be too embarrassed to say yes and too frightened of him to say no. And when it came to the point of you're going to have a transparent dress, I said, look, must I? I said, I've only got 2 little mosquito bites.
What?
And he said,
in your scene, it was going to be with a see-through.
But when I said, I've only got 2 little mosquito bites, he said, OK, you're going to have a proper dress. Thank God for that.
Yeah. Tell us about how I Won the War and John Lennon and all.
Oh, well, I'd worked for lovely Dick Lester before. I'd done a few commercials with him. And don't ask me what ones, because I don't remember. And I was flown out to Spain without any money, and they said, oh, don't worry, that you'll be met with money at the airport. I thought, oh, good. So we get off, I forget what airport, Malaga, I think. And there was a man holding a placard with my name spelt wrong on it, so I trotted over. He couldn't speak English, I couldn't speak Spanish. I thought, oh, great. Never mind, I thought, we'll soon get to the hotel, and half my chums are there. That'll be okay. Only it wasn't. It was a very long way to the hotel, and halfway through I was busting for a wee. And I had to explain this to him, and I explained it really by drawing a picture of a loo in my diary. It was the only thing I could think of. And he's looked at me and said, "Is nécessaire?" And I said, "It's most necessary." So he we went to a cafe, and the guy let me go, thank God. And eventually we got to the hotel, and nobody was around. Nobody to give me any money to buy my supper, nothing. And none of my friends were there. So I went up to my room and thought, well, don't fancy this very much. Then the phone rang, and it was John Lennon, who was an old friend. And I went down, and there was Roy Kinnear, God rest him. Nice people that I knew, and others too. Can't remember now. And they said, it's all right, Paul, they've done this to us all. We've all been lending money to the next person to come out, so that was okay. And we had a pretty good time, really. And I remember one marvellous moment. I was sitting on a hill with the marvellous Michael Hordern, an actor I greatly admired. And he suddenly said, "Polly, look." And I looked, and there were the swallows on their way out to Africa. It was quite a sight. It really was. It was quite thrilling, that. And, then, yes, that was it. Somebody said, "Are you going back with Paul?" And I said, "I'm going back with John and Michael." I meant John Lennon and Michael Hordern. But a voice behind me said, "I didn't realise you were coming back with us." And it was John Lennon. I said, "Oh, no, I meant the other John." No, he said, "Come back with us." So I hopped into that Rolls, and I thought, God, I wish I could sell this ride. Think of what the money I'd make. And we were driving past a hill, and there were all these caves with sort of like shutters painted around them. And John said, "Look, it's the council caves." That made me laugh. That Rolls, I mean, you pressed a button and you got music, you pressed a button and other things happened. And when he offered me a fag and I looked around for an ashtray and I said, "John, where's the ashtray?" He gave me a withering look, and it was a perfectly ordinary ashtray just pulled out of the arm. Thank you.
Tell us about how you got into acting, Polly. When did you...
Well, I knew when I was 10.
When you were 10?
Yeah, I knew then. There was only one thing, I only had one talent. I couldn't do anything else. I was useless at most other things. But I knew I could do that. And...
How did it all come about? Did you go...
I went...
were you in a school play or something? When did the old penny drop?
Every school play I was in. Believe me, one of the parts I had was Kate in Taming of the Shrew, which was lovely. But when I left school...
Where did you go to school?
Godolphin and Latimer in Hammersmith. I had a wonderful headmistress, Dame Joyce Bishop, who I adored. And anyway, I got into RADA, and I was there for 2 years. And then it took me ages to get a job. And finally I got, thank God, a job with Bristol Little Theatre for Ronnie Russell and Peggy Ann Wood, and I went there. I think that was one of the happiest years I've ever spent in my life. And well, from then it was sort of either I was working or I wasn't, you know. It's like any actor's
Can you remember who was at RADA at the same time as you?
Good God, yes. Peter O'Toole, Albert Finney, all that lot, you know. And I think the whole school were divided between Finney fans and O'Toole fans. And much as I admire Finney, I was definitely an O'Toole fan because I've seen Peter do some peculiar work, but I've never seen him be less than interesting, and I've seen him do some wonderful stuff. And when I went down to Bristol, Peter was at the old Vic, Bristol Vic there, and I was too shy to, you know, I hadn't known him very well, and I was too shy to go and say hello, but he came and fetched me, you know, sweetie, why haven't you been to see me? Oh, I thought, good. And he was great because he took me out. Have you seen the Vic yet? No, I haven't. Right, you come with me. And he took me to the old Bristol Old Vic, and he made me shut my eyes before I walked into the auditorium. And I went in, and he said, now open your eyes. And I went, oh, wow. And he said, everybody does that. And I'm not surprised. It was lovely. And what else happened? Other people at RADA, I know there were. Rosemary Leach. I really loved her work. And I thought she was a very nice girl.
You come across, you call him Sir, don't you?
Well, Sir Lawrence, I worked with him years later. Yeah, I don't know why he was generally called Sir. Well, there were plenty of other Sirs, but he was Sir, as far as we were concerned. Then, years later, I got into the National Theatre, which was 2 years of absolute heaven. And
what were you doing at the National Theatre?
Well, you know, spear carrying, understudying, but the exciting thing was Noel Coward was there to direct Hay Fever, and I was understudying Maggie Smith and Louise Purnell and Lynn Redgrave. I can't think, one time I was covering all three of them. You know, they said, oh, no, we're going to get people in later on, Paul, which they did. But I thought, I hope to God, you know, they're not all off at once or we can't do the show. But he was wonderful, and I was absolutely terrified of him to begin with. And I sat sort of trying to disappear into the wall, you know how you do when you're really scared. And he came round and sat beside me and started making me laugh. And you can't go on being frightened when you're laughing your socks off. No. And I just adored him. And, well, me among millions, you know.
Tell us a little bit about the Redgrave Theatre.
Oh, yeah.
Got some black and whites. Have you played?
Well, before the Redgrave, it was the Castle Theatre.
Right. Which
was a tiny little theatre. But, and I played there. I played Gwendolen in The Importance of Being Earnest. And
what about Doris in...
that was at the Redgrave.
Flare Path.
That was a part I'd wanted since I was a kid. And the first time I read that play, I thought, please, God, let me play Doris one day. And by the time I was offered it, I was really a bit too old to play the part. But, and then when I knew I'd been given it, I just went on my knees and screamed when I got the letter. I was so thrilled. And then I started, please let the Johnny be a good actor. Oh, it's Johnny Hughes, so that's all right. Please let the Peter Kyle be a good actor. And that was Basil Moss, who was lovely. And I knew that I could work with Baz nicely because at the first reading, our eyes were meeting over the page. He knew it and so did I. So
What's it about, Flare Path?
Oh, well, Rattigan was in the RAF and he wrote it during the war, and it was about an RAF station during the war.
Ah.
And we had a wonderful set. I don't usually go mad about sets, but this one, well, I can only say when they dismantled it at the end of the run, it felt I was being evicted from my home. I loved doing that, I really did.
And yeah, we've got another picture of you playing the nurse in Romeo and Juliet.
Oh gosh, yes, terrible production.
Where was that?
Chesterfield.
Was it?
It was dreadful.
Why was it so dreadful?
I wasn't happy there because in the whole company there was nobody I could act with, giggle with or flirt with. You know, there was no connection. I was a lot older, I think, than the other, the rest of the company, and boy, did they make me feel it. They didn't even work with me.
Oh, really?
Really. And they have different ways. I wanted to do it because I love playing Shakespeare, and the nurse is a bloody good part. But if I'm frightened of something, I think it's quite often the best way to go about it is to hold your nose, shut your eyes and jump in at the deep end, which is what I did with that at rehearsal. And the television-trained younger ones all thought I was hamming it up. But I wasn't. I was just... If you start at the top, then it's much easier to shave bits up that you don't need than to build up. Anyway, that's how I found it. And no, I hated that production, but I love playing the nurse. It's a wonderful part.
What about getting married? George Bernard Shaw. Do you remember much about that?
I loved that because this was for a guy called Chris Masterson who used to run a little lunchtime theatre over at Guildford. And I did quite a few plays for him. But doing the Getting Married one was great because I was playing opposite Oscar Quittak, who was a glorious actor. And, when it happens like that, it's really nice.
And where was that in Guildford, was it?
At the Bellaby Theatre, which is a tiny little lunchtime theatre. And we got, good audiences and everything. And I loved doing that one. Though once I got a note from Chris about a line. He said, "Polly, could you play it like a virgin?" I said, "Blimey, that was a long time ago, darling. I don't know if I can remember." But he said, "Well, turn that down a bit." And Oscar said, "Yes, you're frightening me, darling." So.
Any memories of cabaret?
Oh, so many.
Fraulein Schneider, is that right?
Yeah, that was another part I'd always wanted, Fraulein Schneider. And I went up to Dundee.
Is that where it was, in Dundee, that one?
Mm-hmm. I've done it twice, but the best one and the first one was at Dundee. And I went up there and I just loved it. And it was a wonderful cast. And two of them have done very, very well. And I thought they were the two I'd picked out. They'll do it. A lovely guy called Tyler Butterworth, who was Peter Butterworth's son. And he's left acting, but I believe he now does film scripts and things. And then there's Linda Henry, who's in EastEnders. She was in that, being very glam. And it was just lovely. In fact, we were all crying on the last night because we didn't want the party to stop, you know.
Yeah. The photo looks like you're having fun. What about Marjorie in Home?
Ah, that was hard.
David's story.
That was up at Dundee too. Long time before, actually.
What was hard about that then?
Very hard indeed. Well, partly it was hard to learn because the play's called Home, and you don't realise until about halfway through, unless you're very bright and pick up on it instantly, that these people are in a home for, mentally disturbed people. And because of the way their minds work, you don't get a clear cue always. You have to pick it up out of the air somewhere where you go next. So that was quite hard to learn. But also it was a very powerful play and had a hell of an effect on people. I mean, I was walking down the road with Jimmy once, who was playing Harry, I think, and he said to me, "Polly, I think that's the gentleman who..." And I looked at him and nothing more came. I thought, oh God, he's being him off stage too. And then Barbara burst into floods and tears and said, "I can't do this, it's too hard." And I thought, I'm too old and too tough to get affected by this. But I did, because to play that part, it was a very heavy burden to carry, to be that woman.
Right.
And on the last night, we all went to a restaurant together. And I started to cry. And I couldn't stop. And the more people were trying to console me, the worse I got. If they just said, Paul, stop it, I might have been better, but I couldn't. Then, you know, being flooded with sympathy, it was just, I didn't know why I was doing it, you see. And I realised afterwards it was sheer relief of not having to play Marjorie anymore.
Wow. Because in the photo, you look like you're laughing.
Laughing my head up, yeah. But
was that part of the
yeah.
play, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, it was a hard one to do. Worth doing, very well worth doing. And I got such a present. Sometimes you get a present if you keep your eyes open. I was wondering, what the hell am I going to do with this woman's hair? And I was coming along the street on my way to rehearsal. And suddenly a little woman popped out in front of me and said, would I take her to the post office? Because she was a bit worried about the ice on the pavement. I said, yes, of course, you can't refuse. And I took her to the post office thinking, I'm going to be late, damn it. And I suddenly looked at what she'd done with her hair, which was parted on one side like a kid. And she had curvy clips and hair slides, and I thought, that's it, that's Marjorie's hairdo. So it's nice to get a present like that sometimes.
Any memories of Carden Robinson?
Oh, Cardew.
My Fat Friend, 1975.
Yes. The thing is, Cardew isn't an actor, he's a stand-up comic. And he didn't seem to think it was necessary actually to learn it. And this made it very difficult for me, well, for anybody to work with him, really, as you sort of are frantically cobbling bits of the plot together for the audience's sake. And then he'd be late. He apparently parked his car once in such a way that nobody could get in or out of the car park, and went away and nobody knew where he'd gone. And another day he said, Paul, what's today? I said, Tuesday. I think, why? Oh, God, I'm supposed to be doing a broadcast in Oxford. And we were in Cheltenham. I said, what time? He said, oh, about half an hour ago. How anyone could be that casual, I don't know. I liked him very much. He used to call me Old Mother Gin Guts, which was most unfair because I didn't drink gin in those days.
What about how he lied to her husband?
Oh,
That's
that was the first one I did at the Bellaby for Chris.
With Ian Bartholomew?
Yeah, that's right, little Barty. No, it was it's quite a fun thing, that. But how he lied to her husband, it's a little one-act play, a short play. Well, this boy is madly in love with this older woman, and she feels, worried about how her husband's going to feel about that. But it turns out that her husband takes it for granted that everybody falls in love with his wife, and he would have been offended if the boy hadn't. But it is quite a funny play. And one day, Ian and I went on, and we weren't getting a single laugh. Nothing. No proper reaction at all. And we were both getting more and more sort of, Christ, what's wrong? And Ian's makeup was streaking because he was sweating like a pig. And we found out afterwards that the audience were a party of Japanese students and they hadn't understood a bloody word of it, so not really surprising.
Where was that? Which part of the world?
The Bellaby.
Okay.
Guildford.
Oh, Guildford. Cool. What about, I've got another picture of you here in Shawl Hotel, Effie.
Oh, that was in my first job when I was at Bristol.
Oh,
Small hotel. Yeah. Typecasting.
Remember anything about that in particular?
Yeah, that I loved doing it. And I think that was the first time Malcolm Farker directed me. And he's a joy to work for.
Would that have been...
And he's still a good friend.
Would that have been before or after... We've got a shot of you in Monica Twig in Mr.
That's about the same time, I think.
Would that be Bristol as well? Yeah,
that was Bristol, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Kettle. Who wrote that then?
Priestley.
Oh, was it? Wow. 1956, that.
Yeah, a long time ago.
We've got another picture of you in The Lover by Harold Pinter.
Now, that was very interesting to do because I'd seen the play on telly and thought, how sexy, what fun. But when you come to do it, you realise it isn't actually fun at all. What it is the breakup of a marriage with a couple who are desperately trying to hang on to what was left and failing. And how they're trying to do it, they play these sexy games, you know. He goes off to work and then bounces back, pretending he's her lover. And I would have thought to sing this, it was pretty obvious, but one idiot critic wrote, "This is a confusing play, the confusion made worse by the fact that the same actor plays the lover as plays the husband." And I thought, oh, idiot.
Where was that?
That was at the Bellaby too.
Was it? Yeah.
With my mate Richard Steele. He was a joy to work with, but God, that man never stops talking. Well, he does now, poor love, he's gone, but...
Tell me about your role, is it Mrs. Swab?
Oh, Habeas Corpus.
Habeas Corpus.
That was pure joy.
Alan Bennett, yeah.
Yeah. That was at Cheltenham for Malcolm. And it was like going to a party every night. It wasn't like working. And Bennett writes so well that it's no slug to learn it. I read the play about 3 times, as I normally do before I start to settle down to the learning bit, and I found I knew it. Just slid in like silk. Thank you, Mr. Bennett.
What was the part, Mrs. Swab?
She was the char lady.
The char lady.
But she was also a little bit narrator.
Tell me about Mavis in The Gentle Avalanche.
Gosh, there was another one for Malcolm. When I read the play, I said, "Malky, you're mad casting me in this. I can't play this part." And he said, "Can't you, Ducky?" He said, "I thought that would be your Waterloo." I thought, "Oh, thank you, Malky." But in fact, he gave me the thing when I was floundering a bit. He said, "Paul, I think you'll get it if you get the nanny inflection." Got it. And there was something I loved doing about that. When the old age pensioners matinee came in, I got a lovely laugh because you know how people will speak to older people as if they're half-witted. And having spoken perfectly normally to everybody else, I turned around to him and said, "Have you been here long?" And got a lovely laugh. And the other thing was when I was having a cup of tea, I knew they were waiting for me to lift my little finger. So I made them wait and got it up and went like that and got a lovely laugh again. You know?
Where was that?
Cheltenham.
It was Cheltenham. Got another one here, Village Wooing. That's Bernard Shaw.
Yeah, that was with Oscar Quitack. I loved doing that.
Was that where was that?
At the Bellaby.
Bellaby as well. How about Karen in The Anniversary with Peggy Mount?
Oh, wow. That was at Cheltenham. And it was marvellous. We were all, a bit nervous about working with Peggy, but she was wonderful. And we all loved her. And we clubbed together to buy her a dirty great bunch of red roses when she left. And it was so sad because we wanted her to come out with us. She said, "I can't, dears." And it was true, she couldn't. I was in a bookshop once and I saw Peggy and I said hello and she said hello to me. And that voice is so distinctive that every head went... And she said, "I get nightmares about hands, about people grabbing me." And I thought, God, that must be horrible. Not all jam being a star, I'd have hated that.
Tell us about your role as Beatrice in Much Ado About Nothing.
Well, it wasn't really my part. It was when I understudied Maggie Smith.
Okay.
And Mags wasn't well. So I played Beatrice in Much Ado and Myra in Hay Fever for about, I think, 10 performances. And I truly thought I'd died and gone to heaven. I loved that.
How many times did you do that? Did you have to stand in?
I said about 10 performances, but I don't know. I can't tell you how many were Much Ado and how many. I think it was mostly Much Ado and 1 or 2 of Hay Fever.
We've got another shot of you in Separate Tables.
Oh, again, that was at Bristol Little in my first job.
And Aunt Barking in Model Millie.
It was a children's television thing called Model Millie.
Yeah.
And I bought the what do they call it? Job grapevine, on which they'll say who was looking for what. And they said they wanted a lady in her 50s who was slightly off her trolley. I thought, well, I wrote in and said that sounds like me, and I went in to audition for them. And I noticed that the others were singing, in beautiful sopranos, which I can't do. I mean, my singing voice was can't sing at all now, but when I sang, it was more of a much deeper one. So I just belted it, and I think that's why I got the job. Because you get so many of these people singing, trilling away. And I just belted out the songs. And it was fun that. I did about, I think, 5. And I wish they'd repeat it again, because they'd have to give me more repeat fees, but they won't. I think I squeezed that one dry.
Can you remember, just getting back to Clockwork Orange, can you remember where it was filmed? Was it filmed in a hospital, was it?
Yes, it was.
It was.
Out of London, I can't remember where exactly. Don't ask me about where and when, darling. I'm no good at that. But it was in a real hospital.
All right. I'm sure there'll be something on the internet about that.
It was
that,
something
actually.
like Milton Keynes or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or Hertford. I can't remember. But it was north of London, I think.
Would you ever work again, Paul?
Depends what came up. The fact is, you need a huge amount of energy for theatre, and I don't think I mean, damn it, I'm going to be 80 next year, love. That struck me with a dull thud when I realised I haven't the energy that I used to have. Because I haven't been working for so long, the voice is pretty buggered. I could certainly do radio, maybe a little bit of telly, but I don't think I'm capable of proper theatre acting anymore, which is what I like doing best. But I'm getting on with the writing, and I'm quite happy.
Tell us a little bit more about what you're up to nowadays.
Well, sitting at home writing, playing with my 2 cats, seeing friends, occasionally doing housework when I can't get out of it anymore. Oh dear, when Stu was alive, I never had to, he spoilt me rotten, bless him. I never had to hoover because he was afraid I might damage his precious Dyson. Well, fine by me, I didn't want to hoover. But of course, since he died, that damn thing is too heavy for me anyway. So I've been naughty and extravagant and bought a rubber thing, a circular thing. I haven't...
Did you get it?
Yeah.
When?
Got it last week and I haven't had the nerve to use it yet.
You did it? I can't believe it. I thought you were joking about that.
No.
You actually went through with it?
I did, yeah. Well, we'll see how it goes. I'll tell you how it goes if it really cleans the place up. But I thought it's going to be heaven if all I have to do is plug it in, press a button, and it does the cleaning.
How much was it?
Lot of money. More than I could really afford. But there was 50 quid off, which was, you know.
Polly.
Yeah?
How lovely of you to spare the time for us.
Darling, I've got
It's
tons
great.
of time these days.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. And we can have some lovely lunch.
Yeah,
aren't we?
good.
No?